Ready? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I've called this press conference because of widespread house parties and other large gatherings that took place last night, including parties that CPD broke up of 50 and even 150 people. And unfortunately, we know that more are planned tonight. This frankly doesn't come as a surprise given the warm weather. We've all been cooped up, we all miss our friends, and we all want to go outside and gather in groups. However, those aspirations simply cannot become a reality in the middle of a pandemic. Those desires are absolutely no excuse for breaking the law, ignoring the stay-at-home order, violating social distance, and putting you and everyone you come into contact at risk. COVID-19 is dangerous and deadly. It's still here, folks, ruthlessly attacking people all over this city. We have spent 6 weeks working and sacrificing to halt the spread of this disease and save lives. And you better believe I'm not going to allow any individuals to upend the progress that we've made or add more deaths to our city's toll. Today or tomorrow, we're going to top 1,000 deaths in our city. Think about that. 1,000 people dead simply because of COVID-19. I can't make this any clearer. You absolutely must stay at home. And that means your home, not somebody else's home, not an Airbnb, not some party place. You need to stay at your home. That's what this means. Going to a party now during this pandemic while Chicagoans are still dying every day is a height of foolishness. And why is it foolish? Let's look at the data. Just because you're young doesn't mean you can't get it. You can. 3,491 young people, 18 to 29, and counting every single day, have contracted this virus in our city. And yes, folks, black people can get COVID-19. The first death in our city was that of a black woman who got the disease and unfortunately passed away as a result. And what we also know is that 53% of the deaths in Chicago are among black people. 23% are among Latinx, and growing every single day. What do these numbers make plain? That you are risking your own health, you are risking the health of every single other person you come into contact with when you go out and party in these large settings. When you go out and party, when you go home to your mama, your grandma, or anybody in your household who has an underlying medical condition, you are bringing death to their doorstep. Make no mistake about it. And if you care about them, you will stop this foolish, reckless behavior. And that goes double for communities like this one on the west side, where we're seeing disproportionately large numbers of cases and, yes, deaths. And this is not the only community across the city where that is true. If you want to hang out with your friends, call them. If you want to have a dance party, TikTok, some other form of video. But for every foolish person that hosts a party, for every foolish person that goes to a party, what you're doing is putting yourself in danger, putting others in danger, and making this crisis harder and longer and more difficult for us to control and contain. We all need to be thinking about the long game. And having these parties, when we need people to continue to stay at home, is just silly. What's it going to mean? It's going to mean that we're never getting out of this. Your actions are going to make a difference between whether or not we get out sooner or later, whether or not we have a summer or we do not. So it is absolutely essential that we stay the course and people stay home. Now, we know the heroes in our communities are doing exactly what they need to do, and even going a step further and telling us where some of these parties are actually happening. And we commend the people who are stepping up and recognizing that they have a responsibility and that we all have a responsibility. Now, I've directed Superintendent Brown to order all police districts to give special attention to these parties. And this is how it's going to be. We will shut you down, we will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period. There should be nothing unambiguous about that. Don't make us treat you like a criminal. But if you act like a criminal and you violate the law and you refuse to do what is necessary to save lives in the city in the middle of a pandemic, we will take you to jail, period. So, that means if you host a party, if you promote a party, if you go to a party, we're not playing games. We mean business, and we are going to shut this down one way or the other. The time for educating people into compliance is over. Don't be stupid. Don't come out. Don't advertise on social media. We're watching you, and we are going to take decisive action. Now, if you see one of these parties happening, or you know that it's going to happen, you can contact the police department anonymously. You can do it by dialing 911. You can report it online at cpdtipped.com or texting 274-637 or texting 274-637 or crimes and typing CPD into your message. And let me also add how upset I am about the selfishness of these parties. We have healthcare workers every day risking life and limb to take care of people in hospitals who are gasping for their last breath because they're sick with COVID-19. We have police officers, first responders, firemen, EMTs who are going to calls for service for people who are desperately in need of medical care. Every single one of those calls, they put themselves at risk. How can we not honor that sacrifice by doing a simple thing, and that is staying at home? We have to do better. And folks, you're not just putting yourselves at risk. If you live in a house with somebody who is over 60, or you live in a household with somebody who has an underlying medical condition, every single time you go out, you are bringing the curse of this virus home to them. Now, I will say that I'm proud of the number of Chicagoans who have stood up in this time and done the right thing. We were seeing about 82% compliance with the stay-at-home order, but in the last week, that slipped down to 77%. And why? Because people think it's summer, it's warm out, I can do whatever I want, I'm young, it's not going to affect me. It does, it will, and we will make sure that you are in compliance. But the better thing to do is value your own life. Value the life of people in your household. Value the life of the people that you will never even know, but that you'll come into contact with. And please, folks, you've got to stay home and save lives. At this point, I'm going to ask Superintendent Brown to come to the podium. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor. And I echo the Mayor's passion and sense of urgency with dispersing these parties. It's a beautiful day in Chicago. The first taste of summer truly is a blessing, particularly after months of being inside. And of course, cold weather isn't the only thing that's been keeping us inside. We've all been asked to stay indoors. And over the last month and a half, to slow the spread of COVID-19 virus. Restrictions meant to bend the curve also include wearing face coverings in public places and practicing social distancing. But staying at home is truly the best way we can prevent the spread of the virus. The Chicago Police Department is asking everyone to continue to observe the stay-at-home order this weekend and until further order is lifted. Don't leave your house unless absolutely necessary. Don't invite people over either. Doing this puts all of us at risk, particularly our older residents and those with pre-existing conditions. Chicagoans have done too much good thus far to risk a spike in cases of this deadly virus. This isn't something CPD is going to take lightly. Staying at home means saving lives, period. Chicago police officers are working with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection to enforce the stay-at-home order. CPD will be on the lookout for gatherings large and small. If you are caught attending a party or congregating, you will be asked to disperse. We are aware of 6 parties tonight and are reaching out to the host, advising them to cancel these parties. Non-compliance will result in citations, fines, and yes, arrest. As silly as that sounds, you could be arrested for having a party in this COVID-19 virus environment. CPD has the ability to arrest offenders that adamantly refuse the stay-at-home order. Those that organize any large parties will be held accountable, like the one being held here today in the 11th district that we learned about through a tip from a resident. If you see a large gathering or hear someone hosting a large party, I'm asking you to call 911. Officers will be dispatched to these locations to break up any large gatherings. You can also submit a tip anonymously to cpdtip.com. That's cpdtip.com. Or text your tip anonymously to crimes. That's 274-637. That's 274-637. Start your text with CPD. Then type in your anonymous tip in the message box and hit send. I want to remind everyone that alerting CPD to large gatherings and illegal house parties does not make you a bad neighbor. It makes you a hero who will be saving lives. We need everyone to stay at home during this pandemic. If you want to enjoy the beautiful days like this one, do that in the future, not during the stay-at-home order. Summer will be here soon. If we all follow the law now, we could someday be hosting backyard parties again. But now is not the time. I'm also looking forward to getting to know my new neighbors and watching children play like many of you are in the park. But now is not the time. Now we need to follow the rules put in place to keep us all safe. It's my job as superintendent to enforce these rules. And I, along with the 13,000 plus members of the Chicago Police Department, plan to do our jobs. We are asking you to please be a partner with us to ensure the safety of all of us. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Chicago's police building. Sorry. Thank you.
You're fine. Thank you, Superintendent. Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Scareño. I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. The Mayor has been extremely clear from day one, from the very first day that the stay-at-home order was announced. Stay home and save lives. And the vast majority of Chicagoans are taking the message very seriously and are doing just that. They are following the rules, they are staying home, they're looking out for their neighbors and their families, and they are making sure that everybody is staying safe. But unfortunately, some have not. And I'm here to remind all the residents that parties in short-term rentals, such as shared housing units like Airbnb, like HomeAway, and others, are not going to be tolerated. And not only are they not going to be tolerated, they are actually illegal and not allowed. BACP is working closely with Chicago Police Department to hold everyone involved accountable. Today, we are issuing a notice to hosts that allow parties and letting them know that they will be facing fines and also that they will never be allowed to ever be a shared host operator here in the city of Chicago. Guests that use shared housing sites like Airbnb and HomeAway and throw parties will be removed from those platforms, and in addition, additional penalties will follow. And as I've stated, we will follow through with revocation, and those hosts will not be allowed to ever operate a shared housing unit in the city of Chicago. That is not only because of the stay-at-home order, but it's actually part of the city policy and the ordinance already. So we are going to follow through on that. I encourage neighbors to call 911, as the mayor and the superintendent have already stated. But I also encourage that if you know of a particular unit that continues to have parties and you don't want to call 911, you can also call 311. We investigate every single complaint that comes to us on these particular issues. If a party is happening at a short-term rental, please tell the call taker of the specific unit, because it's very important to have the address and the unit, and let us know that what activity is happening. So whether that is the 911 call taker or the 311 call taker, we will work with both to actually look up those addresses and follow through with investigations and the proper enforcement. So I really want to be clear here. The vast majority of operators in the city of Chicago are doing the right thing, and they are absolutely not engaging in this activity. And so it's completely unfair and selfish for those shared unit operators who hold themselves out to have these parties and put people's lives at risk. It is completely irresponsible, and we are not going to tolerate it. I am working very closely with the superintendent. I have a team of investigators, and we will follow through on every single scenario. So if you are listed today and you're holding a party, think about it and think twice, because you will not be able to benefit from that in the future. I also want to let you know that I've actually talked to all the companies this morning. They are working with us. Not only do they also have policies, they will be getting the notice of enforcement that they are getting, but this notice is also going to all the hosts in the city of Chicago, so they are actually working with us. They will enhance their policies and make sure that where they see parties, they will also take action on their end. So I want to commend them for doing that. But hosts and guests should be advised that parties at short-term rentals will not be tolerated yet again. We will find you, we will shut you down. We are working on it as we speak to ensure that any parties that have already taken place on those shared housing sites will be enforced. And so now I want to thank the community for working with us, and I want to welcome to the podium Ms. Patricia Carrillo. She's with West Humboldt Park 1000 and 1100 Block Club. Welcome.
Hi everybody, my name is Patricia Carrillo. I'm the president of the Block Club 1000 and 1100 North Monticello. I'm here for my community, for my neighbors, for my family. I'm gonna behind my neighbors, my family, and my community to ask you to please stay home. This is very serious. We need to be responsible. We need to be able to return to our jobs. I'm without job right now, and I'm desperate to go back to work because I need to work. So please be responsible. We need to go back to our new normal lives. That's what we need. So today I went to Humboldt Park and I saw a lot of people. I was like, what's going on with these people? I mean, I understand everybody want to be outside, but it's not the time. It's not the time. I had 2 kids. I got a teenager, and every day he asked me, Mom, can I go to the park? I said, no, you cannot go to the park. We need to be responsible. So please, I ask everybody to stay home and be responsible. I'm going to talk in Spanish now. Hola, mi nombre es Patricia Carrillo. Soy la presidenta de mi club de bloque. Estoy aquí en nombre de mis amigos, de mis vecinos, de mi comunidad, para pedirles que por favor se queden en casa. Esto es serio, de verdad es muy serio. Yo personalmente tengo 2 hermanas gemelas y las 2 se contagiaron del COVID-19. Están enfermas, están en casa y es bien triste ver cómo esa enfermedad te da. Gracias a Dios van a salir. Estamos positivos, pero les vuelvo a repetir, quédense en casa, de verdad, quédense en casa. Nosotros podemos ser mejores todos juntos. Terminar con este virus, si seguimos la orden de quedarnos en casa, vamos a estar mejor. Seamos responsables, así podemos regresar pronto a nuestros trabajos y a nuestra nueva vida normal. Gracias y por favor quédense en casa. En serio, quédense en casa. Thank you.
Happy to take your questions.
Mayor Gaynor Hall from WGN. First off, beyond the parties that you've spoken about, what concerns do you have with this nicer weather and people being out and about, not practicing social distancing and not wearing masks?
Well, we know that we've made progress in our city in really trying to flatten the curve. We still haven't seen a decrease yet in cases, but all the progress that we've made is because of social distancing, because of people staying home. And if people use the nice weather as an excuse to retreat from all the restrictions and movement that we know are making a difference, we're going to see another spike in cases. And we're not going to be able to get out of this anytime soon. That's what I'm worried about.
What is the city doing to address the rising number of cases, particularly among the Latinx community?
Well, we have been working diligently as part of our racial equity rapid response team, reaching out into the Latinx community, particularly healthcare providers and other trusted stakeholders in the community. We're going to be rolling out a very specific strategy this week. But the first thing that we did is to make sure that we're actually getting accurate information. We were feared, and we believe to be true, a serious undercount of the number of Latinx infections. So we're starting to get better data there, which is helpful. But what we're seeing is a significant rise in the number of cases. So we've got to be just as diligent in reaching out to the Latinx community as we've done in the Black community, where we've seen disproportionate number of deaths and disproportionate number of infections.
You also talked about taking tough action for anyone who is engaging in these large parties. What do you say to people who have concerns about that based on, long time over-policing in certain communities?
Well, this isn't about over-policing. This is about saving people's lives, period. Saving people's lives. And as I said before, if you're young and you think you can't get it, that's just wrong. Over 3,400 people between the ages of 18 and 29 have gotten the virus and counting. And the other thing that we have to know is, even if you don't fear for yourself, but you should, is that every single time that you're out in these congregate settings and you ignore social distancing, where you're not washing your hands, where you're not taking care of yourself, you're bringing that right back to your household. So if you live with somebody who's older, if you live with somebody who has an underlying medical condition, you are bringing this virus back home to them. So there's lots of reasons why you should care for yourself, but you should also care about the people in your household and the other people that you're going to come in contact with when you're out there partying. So that's why we're here. We got a tip that there's going to be a party in this block tonight. We're going to shut it down.
A question from Laura Washington, Chicago Sun-Times. She said the mayor has warned that we won't be able to come out of the shutdown if the parties continue. Will you extend the city shutdown if people continue to defy the order, and could it go beyond the end of the month?
We're going to stay in the status quo as long as we need to. And I know a lot of people have expectations that come June, we're going to be out of this. Not if we keep seeing what we're seeing over the course of the last week. We still haven't seen cases go down. They're continuing to go up. We still haven't seen hospitalizations go down. They're flat, which is good, but it's not the same thing as going down. So we're always going to be guided by the data, and what the data has told us week after week while we've been in this is staying home makes a difference. Staying home stopped the surge that we feared of 40,000 hospitalizations. Stop the surge that we feared of 62,000 deaths in our city. But we are not where we need to be, and we're going to continue to be diligent.
Questions for the superintendent?
Sure.
Yeah.
Superintendent, you said that you guys are aware of 6 parties
Total of
planned
6, including the one here.
tonight.
Yeah.
What is that going to look like as you are trying to stop these parties from happening?
Well, we notify people that we are not going to tolerate congregating for parties. We'll be towing cars if necessary. We'll be making arrests to the homeowners. We'll try to give warnings to disperse, but we've given enough warnings. We're getting at the point where we're trying to save lives. And if our message is not resonating with people who are promoting parties or coming out to parties, we have to take that next level of enforcement in order to make sure we save lives. So towing cars, making arrests, citations, they're all on the table to discourage our residents from throwing parties and risking all of our lives.
How many parties were broken up last night, and were there any arrests associated with that?
There were multiple dispersing of the parties last night. We didn't make any arrests. They were all over the city. It really took us away from some of our crime fighting. And so we're struggling with this. You know, I know you know this, but we've lost officers to the COVID-19. We've lost firefighters to the COVID-19 who've given the ultimate sacrifice, willing to risk their lives to save all of us. For a silly party, you are risking first responders' lives. Think about that. That's the silliest thing you can discuss with me, is how you justify having a party risking all of our lives, including our first responders. So we're going to take any and all measures necessary to discourage and end this partying during the COVID pandemic.
And are you primarily being alerted about these parties from other residents in the community, or are you monitoring social media? How are you finding out about what's happening?
These promoters are pretty blatant in their invitations to parties. Come one, come all. You just have to get on any kind of open source social media or other data and find this information out. They're being pretty bold and blatant. They're emboldened by the warm weather. And you don't have to be a rocket science to figure out what the party is. But it's stretching our resources. And so we have to take now firm enforcement when we find you hosting a party, attending a party, driving to a party. We don't want to tow your car. We don't want to cite you. We don't want to arrest you for a party. But this is about saving lives. I can't emphasize that enough. You are risking your life, and you're risking the lives of others because of your irresponsible behavior.
That's it for me.
Question from A.D. Quigg at Cranes. Why didn't CPD break up yesterday's protest at the Thompson Center, which was estimated to have at least 200 people?
Well, I'll start and then I'll turn it to the superintendent. As you know, the vast majority of those people were on state property. CPD was out. First District, I think, did a very good job. When people gravitated into property that was our jurisdiction, we didn't let people linger in the streets, shut down traffic. And I think most people expressing their First Amendment rights, I would have liked to see them do it with social distancing, but as long as they were complying, we were, I think, had a good strategy and plan, and I thought the First District did an outstanding job. There were a couple of knuckleheads that wouldn't listen, and they got arrested.
And I would add that for protests, we try to err on the side of First Amendment. Our Constitution is really important to us. We want to be a constitutional policing organization, and so as much latitude as we gave, we still enforce the law when our orders weren't followed and they were blatant about it. So we feel good about our strategy as it relates to protests. We feel good about the theme of leaning more toward the rights of First Amendment in order to express yourself and your thoughts and politically on a political subject. So we feel good about it, and we feel good about what transpired yesterday.
A few questions from Vivian McCall with WBZ on the stay-at-home order. First question. What are the main differences between city restrictions and statewide COVID policies?
I think the significant one is we're not opening up our lakefront. We're not opening up our golf courses. There's nothing in our data that justifies doing that, so we're not going to do that. There's not going to be any boating or other things that were opened up. We are working with non-essential businesses and make sure that they're complying, but opening back up in a way that would put people at risk, we're just not going to do that.
Second question, will these restrictions be lifted at the end of May?
I have no reason to know when precisely. As I said many, many times, it's all going to be about the data. We have to see more progress than we've made now. We're just at the beginning of May. I'm hopeful that we'll make progress, but again, a lot of it's going to depend upon people being compliant and staying at home.
And last question, Mayor, if you could reiterate why these additional restrictions, these city restrictions, are important.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
If you could reiterate why these additional city restrictions are important.
Because the data tells us that they're important. When we get to a point where we see cases not just slow down in increase, but actually go down and go down over a sustained period of time, when we see the number of hospitalizations, number of ICU beds, number of ventilators that are occupied by COVID positive patients, when those numbers start to go down, right now we're flat, which is progress, but it's not down. So we're going to always be guided by the data. That's why, as anxious as people are, no one's more anxious than I am to open the city back up. Our businesses are being hurt, livelihoods are being lost, but we can't get there and risk life, literally life and death, until we see better sustained results, and we're just not there yet. Why I'm coming out here on the west side, and why the superintendent is here, the commissioner's here, a woman who's the president of the Block Club, is because we're trying to implore our fellow residents of Chicago to stay the course. Staying the course has worked. We know that. We see it in the data every single day. But if we relax, just because it's nice, we're going to be in trouble.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you,
going to go over
everyone.
here and talk to these young men.